All right, now let's get into Extreme Rules in what, in my opinion, of the majority was a really good show, a hell of a lot better than anything that the WWE's put out in a long time. The lackluster pay-per-views of WrestleMania on forward, we've seen the same guys wrestle over and over and over again, and there's still a few matches like that on this card, but for the most part, there was some really, really good wrestling on this show. I think that they're starting to get the idea, and they're starting to move forward with it, and I congratulate the WWE on that, but there's still some major problems, guys. Seriously. First things first, let's get into the pre-show. You know, if you're going to do a pre-show, and I get that they were trying to sell Extreme Rules. They didn't have enough people subscribe to the WWE Network, so they're trying to get them, in there. But here's my problem with it. Beth Phoenix and Jonathan Coachman, they were almost like they were so stoned that they could not think. I mean, I get stoned when I do my podcast, guys, and I can still say whatever the hell I want. Charlie and Sam Roberts. Sam Roberts was highly informed. He was excited. He was ready for this. And you could tell that him and Charlie both were thrown off by Beth Phoenix and Jonathan Coachman's commentary. And when they noticed that this happened, I think they should have used that time to promote this show instead of trying to be a panel and give their expert opinions on all of these matches. They should have said a few things, pushed the matches, and kept going. Highlight the good things, which are going to get people into the show. Okay? Now, after that, this card was fucked up. I think that if they would have booked it differently, it might have been better, okay? If, for example, the WWE would have changed some of the lineups. Like, why are you going to have an Intercontinental Championship match be the kickoff show of your Extreme Rules pay-per-view, and you're going to, spoiler alert, allow Finn Balor to drop his Intercontinental Championship to Shinsuke Nakamura, which is a main event caliber match. Any way you look at it, these guys, like, seriously, I do not understand why they were not featured a lot higher on this. And that's why normally I would go through this show in order. And I'm going to say the order here now. And then I'm going to go over these matches from my least favorite match to my favorite match. To the match of the night, you should say. So we're not going to go over this in chronological order, but I will kind of lay out the order, and we're going to talk about that for a minute and why, at the end, I'll tell you why I feel like this should have been changed. First off, Finn Balor should have never dropped a title to Shinsuke Nakamura on the pre-show. They should have put maybe Bayley's match on there, or one of the tag team title matches on there, or whatever. I feel like the Undertaker match shouldn't have been the first match of the show. It got people on their feet, but it was a high draw match. They could have used it later on in the show for a better purpose than that. Maybe it's just my opinion. So, as I said, the kickoff show, the pre-show was Finn Balor versus Shinsuke Nakamura in the kickoff. And then it was Drew Gulak versus Tony Nese for the Cruiserweight Championship. Those were the two matches on the pre-show. The show opened up to The Undertaker and Roman Reigns, the Graveyard Dogs, or whatever the hell they're called, took on Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. Now, yeah, okay. Wow. And after that, I was just so lost at that point. I wasn't exactly sure anymore if I wanted to even continue watching, because I pretty much saw most of the payoffs, I thought. But there was some other matches that were definitely worth the time. The Revival tag team match against the Usos. Then you had a three-way tag team match with the New Day and, the Planeteers and Heavy Machinery. You also had a United States Championship match with AJ Styles and Ricochet. There was Bayley against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross in a 2-in-1 handicap match. there was Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley in a last man standing match, which, you know, I wasn't real sure about that match when it started, but we'll get into that here in a little bit. Then we had Kofi taking on Samoa Joe, and Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch taking on Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans in a mixed tagged Extreme Rules match that we will definitely be talking about very quickly because it was one of the worst matches of the night. And if I missed one in that lineup, I do apologize. Oh, Aleister Black and Cesaro, which I shouldn't have forgot to mention. That'll be one of the last matches we talk about. It won't be the last match, but it'll be one of the last. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start this off, and we're going to talk about what, in my opinion, was the worst match of the night. And this was probably a tie for me between Bayley in a 2-on-1 handicap match against Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss, and, to be 100% honest with you, Kofi Kingston and Samoa Joe. And if I had to have a tiebreaker vote, the worst match of the night would go to Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross taking on Bayley. You really don't make Nikki Cross look very tough or strong anymore when her and Alexa Bliss, a previous champion, cannot even defeat Bayley. Bayley had a great match. Bayley did a very great job. It just wasn't very believable to me that Bayley should be able to retain against Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss. It just didn't have the feel. The crowd wasn't behind it. I didn't get behind it. Nobody really believed it. Everybody kind of just felt like at the end of the day, Bayley was going to get the win. And it showed. It was very lackluster. There was a couple of really interesting moves in the match, but the pace was off. It was really confusing. We weren't really sure where they were going with it until the very end, like it was called in at the last second. So then onward, because I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that clusterfuck, we will go on to the very close to worst match of the night, in my opinion, Samoa Joe and Kofi Kingston. And the main reason I say it is that they didn't really tell much of a story except Kofi Kingston flipped off Samoa Joe. I mean, there could have been a better build for this, and I think that the crowd and all of the fans would have been more behind this match. But to be honest with you, I think that it was like a sleepy time. Let's just get this match over with because we all know that Kofi Kingston's going to beat the mid-carder known as Samoa Joe. Joe shouldn't be a mid-carder. They've tried to push him several times, but when you're battling for the United States title with Rey Mysterio and you lose it to Ricochet, you've kind of got no power, and then all of a sudden you're in a World Heavyweight Championship match, and nobody's believing that Samoa Joe is walking away from Extreme Rules with a championship. Furthermore, the Extreme Rules pay-per-view in a World Championship wasn't even in an Extreme Rules match. Or it was an Extreme Rules match, and it was very confusing. Okay, that's what I can say about this. Some of the matches I think were Extreme Rules matches, but the referees treated them like they were regular matches. Hence my problem with the 2-on-1 handicap match. And furthermore, my problem and the segue into which I almost made, and it's very close to the worst. Like, these bottom three matches are probably neck and neck for the worst matches of the night. And the World Heavyweight, the Universal Championship and Women's title were defended in one match against Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans by the man, Becky Lynch, and Seth Rollins. And I love Seth Rollins. He's a great wrestler, and Becky Lynch has done very well promoting herself. Okay? Very good. Now, the problem here is this. Okay? Nobody thought that Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans would win. We've seen these guys fight I don't know how many times now, and it's getting old. I mean, especially with Becky Lynch and Lacey Evans. Money in the Bank, Stomping Grounds, Extreme Rules. Baron Corbin was in Saudi Arabia, Stomping Grounds, Extreme Rules, and I believe that, Baron Corbin retired Kurt Angle at WrestleMania, and Seth Rollins beat Brock Lesnar. So I just didn't really buy this match, and it was a confusing clusterfuck. It was supposed to be an Extreme Rules match, right? So if it's an Extreme Rules match, then why was the ref holding them into the corners when they made a tag? Why was it that you could only be in the ring at the same time as a male or a female? If this is Extreme Rules, those rules don't apply. It should have been a tornado tag as in Extreme Rules. It made no sense. Just like in the Kofi match, where one minute, oh, the foot hits the rope. The next minute, Kofi's got to crawl out of the ring to get out of the hold. These three, they were all clusterfucked. It made no sense. Were these Extreme Rules matches? Were they not Extreme Rules matches? You know, the refs didn't help this at all. I feel like they weren't really informed on what the hell was supposed to be going on, and I don't know. Because of the way those were held, they were confusing. And you know what happened to the Extreme Rules, where every single match was an Extreme Rules match, and then there's no question or no doubt or concern or care whatsoever. Anyways, I digress. Onward on this pay-per-view. The rest of so basically the three matches that I named. And to be honest with you, the first two you could sit through. And honestly, to be honest with you, 100% the worst match of the night, and it's one that's not even worth mentioning. But because there was no substance, it doesn't even make the worst match of the night, was Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler. I forgot to mention that one because this match was 2 seconds. It was like another clusterfuck that made no sense. It's like they ran out of time, so they threw it in there. If that was the planned way they were going to do that match, I'm sorry, but like, I don't even understand why Dolph Ziggler left his comedy tour, because all he is a comedy act on the WWE. He hasn't won a match. He came back. It should have been me. Instead of coffee, I should have got tea. He has decided it's okay to just keep being misused in the booking regimen. And I don't understand that. If you bring this guy back out of nowhere, he should have some relevance. Yeah, the word's relevance. He should have some relevance. I don't see what the point of bringing this guy back. And the only reason they brought him back, to be honest with you, is because there's a shortness of heels. And after the match with Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, the crowd wasn't really into it at all until the biggest pop of the whole main event match was when Becky Lynch took the End of Days by Baron Corbin, and the crowd went freaking nuts. They went insane, and I don't blame them. It was a great spot. And after that, Seth freaked out, beat the shit out of Baron Corbin with a kendo stick and a chair, got the 3 stomps in and a win. And then after that, Brock Lesnar came out, and everybody got mad. And I started laughing because before this pay-per-view, ladies and gentlemen, I had decided something. I had decided one thing. There was a regime change coming. Now, on a business standpoint, for the WWE, what makes sense for them to do? Well, if Paul Heyman's running Raw, then Paul Heyman should have Brock Lesnar take over the World Heavyweight Championship on SmackDown. They need the star power. But instead, Paul Heyman, busy man enough as he is running behind the scenes of Raw, he's not gonna be traveling for Raw and SmackDown. He's only going to be traveling for Raw. So did you really think that Brock Lesnar was going to come out and beat Kofi? It proves to me that it's a conflict of interest to have Brock Lesnar, the person that Paul Heyman stands out for on television, as your main champion, as you're booking Monday Night Raw. That don't bode well. But It also makes sense on a business standpoint of the fact that the WWE's in a lot of pressure right now to get their ratings up to impress Fox, because SmackDown is going to Fox in October, I believe. So for them to put Brock back in, they think it's going to get ratings, which, excuse me, a lot of people don't like the fact that Brock Lesnar's there and a part-time champion, but the ratings were better, the draws were better, and with Paul Heyman running it, it only makes sense for him to do it for now. I just hope that with Paul Heyman running Raw, that Brock Lesnar has more of a presence. If Brock Lesnar shows up more, has more of a presence as a dominating champion, it could go off very well for Raw. If he stays away for months on end, it could bode very bad, and I don't think it'll last. The ratings will get worse. People were boycotting Raw because of it. It's not that people don't like Brock Lesnar. It's the same thing as like the Hulk Hogan thing, where Hulk Hogan was huge, and in the WWF, at the time it was the WWF, and eventually he didn't wrestle every night anymore. Eventually he became a part-time champion, just like Brock Lesnar, like The Rock, like John Cena, just part-time guys. And when you give a guy like that a title, it makes it really hard to keep the continuity of your weekly show. So, if you're going to bring back Brock Lesnar, then I say you need to open up another title, and not some jokey-ass 24/7 title or some Legends title. You need to create another title, like a Raw World Championship, and then the Universal Championship. Or like a Raw North American Championship, which is pretty much intercontinental, or a television championship. Because when you take away the biggest prize for a show, it makes it hard for relevance to keep it. There's no prize that anybody's going for, because you're only going to get a chance to fight Brock Lesnar every 3 months. I'm just saying. You got to have some continuity, guys. That means if Brock's going to run with the belt, Brock's going to run with the belt. But he's got to stay relevant. He's got to stay on TV. He's got to dominate. Standing in the background, fighting guys here and there, it makes him look kind of like a bitch. And I'm just saying that to be honest with you guys. It makes Brock Lesnar look like a bitch. And he shouldn't. He's one of the biggest guys in the company, one of the biggest bodies, and he should be one of the biggest draws. And if booked correctly, he would be. Making him a part-time champion, that's not going to get the draws that you want. He's obviously not going back to UFC, so maybe he's going to work full-time. I don't know. I really don't see that, though, because he's never worked full-time, and he's loved the fact that he can work limited dates. So, we'll see. Raw, he'll be on Raw this week, but let's see what the build is up through SummerSlam and on to Survivor Series. If Brock makes appearances on a regular basis, it could go pretty well. And you guys got to admit that. Brock would be great if he was on TV regularly. So maybe they'll do that. He doesn't even have to wrestle every week. Just have him there, shoot a promo, do something. Even put him in a tag match once in a while, let him dominate. But, even if he fights, some local indie guy and just squashes the hell out of him, it still shows dominance. They do it with Lars Sullivan when he was there before he got hurt. They did it with Braun Strowman. You can do the same thing with Brock Lesnar. You can keep things relevant. So we'll see what happens there. Now, going on further into the card, like I said, we've already been through, I think, 4 of the matches. The next match, to be honest with you, was probably a tie between several matches on the card. Actually, wait, let me look at my notes here. No, the next match was actually the 3-way tag team match, which was a fairly good match. There was some good spots in it, but it was just kind of not a glitchy, not a match that you could just get behind. New Day winning it was great. That's the 6-time champions. But as far as the whole match in a whole, it was just another 3-way tag match. We've seen a lot of those in the WWE lately, and to be honest with you, it was just kind of mediocre. There was a couple good spots, but it was just kind of mediocre. I do like Otis. He's like Chris Farley. I mean, he really reminds me of Chris Farley. And I'm pretty sure that that's what he's going for here, is he wants to be like Chris Farley. But if he's not trying to be like Chris Farley and he's naturally like that, that dude should not even be in wrestling. That dude should be on Saturday Night Live. I'm just saying, he's missing his calling. That guy's hilarious. That's a presence. Somebody like that's a comedy presence. That's when comedy works, okay? When he just does it nonchalantly and it works. He's not forcing it on you. He's not being too over the top. He's just doing what works. For that reason, any match that Heavy Machinery in will keep me watching and is entertained to see what the hell this guy's going to do. But overall, the match was kind of slow. The pace didn't keep up, and it kind of drug out a little. Still better matches. And even though I'm saying that, there's still better matches than anything we've seen on Stomping Grounds. So, like I said, the next match would have to go to probably Drew Gulak and Tony Nese. These guys had a phenomenal match. They picked up the pace from the beginning, and the flow of this match, and if you go back and watch it, or if you haven't watched it yet and you go watch this match, the flow of this match was incredible. These guys seriously moved very fluently. I really enjoyed watching this match. I didn't really think I would. And then I realized that it was Drew Gulak and Tony Nese, and I'm like, wait, these guys were some of the most impressive guys when they did that Cruiserweight tournament. And they're still out doing the 205 Live. The thing that I liked about them being the second match in the pre-show is the fact that they fit there. Like, they're too okay, and this is no cut down to 205 Live guys, but they're used to wrestling in a half-empty building because of when they put 205 Live on after SmackDown. It's after the dark match after SmackDown. So, half the building takes off, and they move everybody up and they do 205 Live. It's very reminiscent of WCW Thunder. WCW Thunder was the same thing on Monday Night Nitros for a long time. And their weekend show. They would tape those after Nitro a lot of the time. And like when fans would leave, they just move everybody down. They'd slide everybody from the top all the way back down so it looked like a full arena. They wouldn't pan back all the way out. It was a smart move. And convinced people. But my point is that those guys are used to that. And by the time that match was over, the building was full. And not only was it full, they had those people on their feet and ready for the pay-per-view. They really did. And I thought it was a great match. The next match I would honestly have to rate would have to go to, and furthermore, this is my point, is, so, and I'm lost in thought here thinking about what match I really want to bring up next, because I've got a couple of matches sitting here at the rest to review, and they're equal and the same, right? So that is the Intercontinental Championship match between Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura, and the match between AJ Styles and Ricochet. These are both great matches, in my opinion. And I think we're going to talk about the Shinsuke Nakamura match first, and then the U.S. title, in no particular order, because they're equal in my mind. The Shinsuke Nakamura match and Finn Balor, it had a main event feel from the beginning, like I said. some really, really great wrestling on both of these guys' parts. This is kind of like a match you would expect to see at a main event card in any independent circuit. So to see this match as an opener, it disappointed me, and I'm sure that a lot of fans that got there late were pretty sad they missed this match. It was one of the best matches of the night, and it was the first match on the kickoff show. This match flowed great. These guys were on it. I thought Shinsuke looked great. I thought Finn Balor had done the right job. He did the right comebacks at the right times. He sold the right way. It made it feel like when Shinsuke won this title that Finn Balor got beat. Straight up out-countered, outsmarted, and outbeat. And I thought that was a great way to hand the title over to Shinsuke. If you're trying to reestablish the fact that Shinsuke Nakamura is a great wrestler and deserves to be pushed on the scene, giving him a win over Finn Balor is the right way to do it. But to put it on the opener of the kickoff, it just drives me insane. I don't understand. What the hell, WWE? And furthermore, on these kickoff shows, guys, what the hell is it with them putting ads to the pay-per-views on the middle of the match when it's at its climax? Well, we're going to put an ad up. Watch Extreme Rules tonight after that. Like, what the hell? That's what Charlie and Stone Coachman and Phoenix should have done. Seriously, like, major faux pas on that. Now, moving on to other things here, we will go on to AJ Styles and Ricochet. AJ Styles and Ricochet was a great match. It told a story in the ring better than a lot of the matches did all night, and it was very close to the match of the night, in my mind. Very close to match of the night. It was the top 3 matches, matter of fact. This was the third best match of the night, tied. So, you know, it was very interesting to see. My opinion is that it was a great match. Like, there was the right comebacks. Ricochet tried to overcome the club and almost got the victory with the shooting star press, and then he pointed out the foot was out, bringing back up the previous week's match, keeping it relevant. I thought that was great. And AJ Styles winning, it made perfect sense. In this situation, it was kind of a rough call. You've got AJ Styles just turning heel, so he needs that momentum by winning the title, but you also just put this title around the waist of Ricochet at Stomping Grounds. So when a young guy gets his first title shot, it's not always the longest title shot in the world. It's a stepping stone to get them elevated and see what they do with it. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. You give a new guy, up-and-comer, that you believe has what it takes to push themselves, well, then you give them a title and see what they can do with it for a little bit, and then take it away. See how they react. That's what defines people. That's what they're waiting for. They're waiting to see what he does now. AJ Styles, it made perfect sense to give him that belt. In my opinion, perfect sense. So onward to the next match. And I know this is a lot more screwy than most of the pay-per-views I do. I usually go in chronological order, and then I'll tell you what I thought the best match of the night was. But this pay-per-view was booked so fucked up that you almost kind of got to go over it like this. Basically, in my opinion, watch the pay-per-view up until, I believe, the last match before Becky and Seth took on Baron and Lacey was the United States title match. Just quit watching it right there, because you'll save yourself a lot of time. And you probably this is because it was such a clusterfuck match. Maybe that's just my opinion. If you think otherwise, and you're listening to this on the social medias, you're always welcome to hit us up at Reality Bytes Podcast at gmail.com. If you have any questions, you can do that there. We do have a mailbag, but since this is our first Wrestling Bytes podcast in a while, I'm pretty sure Reality Bytes Podcast at gmail.com is empty as we speak. So there is no mail as of right now. But we do welcome you guys to send your questions, comments, and everything like that. You can also go over to the Facebook page, which will hook you up to the website, which will also hook you up to the merch store. And you can get Punthepsych gear. You can get Reality Bytes radio gear. If it's not there yet, guys, give me a couple of days and I will get the Reality Bytes shirt back up there. I don't know if it went away, but there's a Reality Bytes podcast shirt. And I've got somebody helping me right now develop a Wrestling Bytes podcast shirt that will be available sometime in the next month. Stay tuned for those news and other updates, ladies and gentlemen, on that. For all news info of anything we do at Reality Bytes, Wrestling Bytes here at the podcast network, you can go over to our Facebook page. You can hit us up you can hit me up at Punthepsych at Twitter, Punthepsych, one word, at Twitter, or you can hit us up over at our website as well. And the web address is always below in the YouTube videos and is always welcome on any of the Facebook pages. And that is weebly.com/Punthepsych. Anyways, enough self-promotion. Let's get back on to finalize this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, we will get to the top two matches of the pay-per-view. Aleister Black versus Cesaro. This was one hell of a match. My comments and notes on this match, because I was so entertained I didn't even want to take a note, I just simply wrote, holy shit. Some of the counters and some of the moves in this match were so good and sold so well and played so right. It worked. Aleister's promos into this was a nice build. Even though you didn't know who his opponent was going to be, you were ready to watch Aleister Black come out and fight. And the whole story changed when you seen Cesaro answer, because you knew Cesaro was going to fight. And that's exactly what these guys did. They went in the ring and had one of the most amazing matches I have seen two superstars put on, that had an old school feel with a new school vibe I've seen in a long time. And if you don't know what I mean by that, I mean that they were very technical, but they also took a lot of risks. Cesaro is always that old school, new school mix. He found a definite mix and relevance, and I feel like Aleister Black did the same thing. That spinning kick combo cross was amazing. From start to end of this match, I was at the edge of my seat. I wanted this match to last longer. Even though they were both exhausted by the end, I wanted this match to last longer because it was that entertaining. And it would have been the match of the night had it not been for, and I swear to God, the main event of this whole pay-per-view should have been Braun Strowman versus Bobby Lashley, sponsored by Chef Boyardee's Beefaroni. And they should have had the last man standing Beefaroni, the best of the beefies. Because my God, these big dudes, that was amazing. Watching two big guys have a hardcore extreme match like that all over the arena. And then, at the last second, you see Braun power slam Bobby down into that thing, and then he pops out of the side of the wall like the Kool-Aid man. It was one of the coolest matches I've seen, and it was nonstop Extreme Rules. They followed the exact diagram of the pay-per-view. The pay-per-view is called Extreme Rules, so they had a last man standing match. And when I heard that, I thought, oh great, these two big guys are just going to beat each other in and out of the ring. They're probably going to go through a couple tables, and then that'll be the end of the match. No. The suplex into the concrete wall in the concessions area was awesome. These guys, Bobby Lashley, coming down them stairs and landing on them rails, I guarantee you he's got bruises all under his arms from doing that. I mean, you could tell they were stumbling down them stairs. You did a great sell, but that's a lot of weight to come crashing down. And to see these two guys go out there and wrestle like they were 150-pound men made, I guarantee you, not just myself, but every other wrestling fan giddy. This is cool. The crowd loved it. Of course, it was Philadelphia. Again, this should have been the main event of the pay-per-view. I don't understand why, they wouldn't have showcased any of the matches that were Extreme Rules. And this is what I'm saying. Like, the Undertaker match should have been far further up in the show because of the draw of the Undertaker alone. But you've got Roman Reigns, Shane. These were, like, this is my problem with the continuity. And this is what you might not have understood earlier, and I said I would explain it. The continuity. If you have Shane McMahon taking up all this time, and it's to the point where they've even got Kevin Owens on the mic talking about it, then why would they put them on first? If that match had more push and draw than any other match, except maybe that mixed tag match, because they pushed the shit out of that match and nobody really wanted it. It was like John Cena versus Randy Orton 7 at that, you know what I mean? Like, nobody wanted to see that again. Not after the WrestleMania match they had. No, again and again and again. Like Sasha Banks and Charlotte Flair. Again and again and again. By the last time you watched that match, you already knew the moves before they were coming because you've seen that program so many times between them two. Just laying it out there, guys. So the continuity is that if this guy is taking all this time to get all this draw and all this push for this match, and you put it on first, I don't know, man. I'd like to know the reason for that. Overall, it was a way better pay-per-view than any of the ones I've seen, not even WrestleMania. They're in the step for the right direction. I'm curious to see Monday Night Raw and SmackDown and kind of see how they build into SummerSlam, because that's going to be the key determining factor for most of the fans. We know there's a change coming. We see it. We seen it last night on the pay-per-view. So now we'll see what the future holds.